Hello, my name is Taylor and I'm the engineering event assistant for UBC Engineering. And so thank you guys so much for joining us today. And so welcome to the session where we're going to be discussing how to make meaningful connections during your first year at UBC. And so please feel free to comment any questions you have so we can answer them. And today I'm also joined by two current students, Raeiti and Rachel. And so these are actually some of my friends that I met during my first year at UBC. And so Raeiti I met in one of our coding classes, and then Rachel I met in our Physics 170 class. And so I'll let them introduce themselves now.
So I'm Rachel. I'm a very close friend of Taylor's. Um, I guess to start, I'm going to my third year of Eng Phys, um, and some random things. I don't know. I like horseback riding. I like sewing, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys today. And hopefully, I can answer any questions that you have about coming into engineering and the experiences that you guys will have. Yeah.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Raeiti. I'm in my third year of environmental engineering at UBC, and I'm super excited to also be here. Some things about me, I like to do a lot of things outdoors. I also just like going for coffee, going to the gym, and recently I've been into like taking care of plants. So yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining me. And so, a lot of students have mentioned how coming to UBC can seem like a really daunting transition. And so, I just really wanted to ask you guys today, like, just curious about like the process of like finding your support network when you first arrived at UBC. And so, Rachel, I was just curious, like, how did you feel going into UBC, and did you like reach out to people beforehand?
Yeah, so I think definitely coming into UVC, I was a little bit nervous. I was only one of three people from my school going into engineering, and I wasn't really close with those people anyway. So it was definitely kind of a time in my life where I didn't really have a support network that I was so used to having. And so I think one of the biggest things that I kind of had to accept coming into UBC was just the idea that putting yourself out there isn't really as scary as it seems. And especially when you come in first year, every single person is in the exact same boat. So nobody knows anybody. Everyone just wants friends. Everyone wants people to talk to. And so going up to people, just talking to them, saying hi, guaranteed will at least start a conversation. No one's going to be rude to you, nothing like that. And so I think coming in, that was kind of the biggest thing was just pushing myself to reach out to people, to talk to people, and also just to kind of know that those first people that you meet, it's not always like, oh, you have to rush to find your best friends, right at the beginning. You'll meet people throughout your time in classes, kind of like me and Taylor. I didn't really meet her until basically my second term at UBC. So just if you don't meet, your people maybe right at the start, I'm sure you'll meet tons of people. And then also later on, just kind of knowing that throughout your time at UBC, you'll meet people in classes, just on campus. And I just think the biggest thing is kind of setting aside, or as best as you can, setting aside that fear to put yourself out there and kind of pushing yourself to engage with others because that's really how you're going to meet those others. And like I said, I'm sure if you go up and talk to someone, they're going to be so happy that you did because they're in the exact same situation. So yeah, that's kind of my experience.
Raeiti, how was your experience with it?
Yeah, first years I think is definitely a very interesting year. You kind of learn a lot about yourself. I was kind of in the same boat as Rachel. I'm from Vancouver, so when I first started at UBC, I knew a couple of people in my classes, but not too many people. And really, I think first year is kind of the same for everyone. Like everyone is just trying to find their place, trying to find, especially within engineering, what program they want to be in. And so some things that really helped me really be able to like make these connections with the people I'm friends with today, like Rachel said, is putting myself out there, just like talking to random people. And I think friendships are super like situational. So it's just like being in the right place at the right time. But also some other things that really helped me were my standard timetable group. So UBC engineering is great because it puts you in these timetables and you have the same classes with the same like group of 10. And so it's super great because you just get to walk to classes together, especially the first few weeks. It's like they're kind of your people. You see them all the time. And so I think that was one of the best things that happened to me. I met some of my really good friends from that. Also, living in residence was another big thing. I also met a lot of people just by living in residence, just having lunch with them the first day. And like Rachel said, I think like just making friends in first year in general, it's like everyone, no matter what faculty you're in, everyone is there to make friends. Everyone is super new, and everyone's probably just as scared as you to just like put themselves out there. So just like know that everyone is there to just like have a good time and like everyone is there to make friends. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice that the both of you gave because you never know what's going to happen just by saying like hi to someone that you're sitting next to in like a lecture. And so UBC also has a lot of really great opportunities for students to get connected with other students, especially fellow engineers, whether it be getting involved in like Jumpstart or like joining undergraduate societies or like clubs and design teams. And so, Rachel, I was just super curious if you could share your experiences with getting involved in the UBC community and how that has made you make like connections with other people.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I currently am on a design team, which I love a lot. But actually, my first year, I didn't really do any design teams, and I kind of looked into some clubs, but I didn't do them actually. And so, while I highly recommend clubs and design teams because they're so much fun now, I also think it's important to note that don't force yourself to do anything as like a resume builder, because while it's important to have those experiences, I know people who would come to me and be like, "Oh, should I, get onto a design team just to get into my faculty?" And I think one of the best parts of university is how involved you can get in things that you're passionate about. So for things like clubs and design teams, I would highly recommend anyone on like things like Imagine Day, when all like the clubs are there and everything on the first day of school, to kind of go and explore what you're actually passionate about. And I think looking back at my first year, I'm in some ways glad that I didn't do a design team or do clubs because it just gave me time to kind of focus on me and the experiences that I was going to have. But also, sometimes I look at the clubs that they have and I'm like, wow, it would have been so cool to join that or like the equestrian team or something. Because in the end, I think, you're here to have these crazy and wonderful experiences. And so I think design teams and clubs are a great way to get involved in what you really love. And so, especially in engineering, design teams are always great because it gives you also that technical experience. But even just like if you're interested in a baking club, like go for it, have it be something that you look forward to and that kind of adds to your experience. And at least one thing that I found was not to add any stress in it and like, oh, this is going to make me a better student. This is going to make me better for jobs. Like there's so much out there. And so I think for me, just kind of exploring what I actually like and, trying different things, joining a club and then maybe leaving, um, and figuring out what I really love to do was really helpful. And now I really enjoy my design team and it's amazing. So I think definitely when you have the chance, look into what you want to do, but also don't put too much pressure on yourself to be involved in everything at once because that can definitely be overwhelming. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And so, Raiti, I know you're also involved in like design teams and also you're like super involved with the environmental engineering undergraduate society. So I was just wondering like how was your experience meeting people there? Like did you find it scary or like intimidating at first and just how was that?
Yeah, I can definitely talk about that. So I'm I just recently got elected as the co-pres of my faculty. So my faculty is super small. It's about I think it's 40 people in each year. So people in my year, there's only about 35 of us, and incoming second years, there's about 45 of them. And so our program is new because before it was a joint program at UBC and UNBC, but now it's just strictly at UBC. So this was a position I really didn't think I was going to get. In first year, I was on one design team, and I really thought I would really like this design team. And this is kind of built on what Rachel was saying. When I went on Imagine Day, I found this design team and I was like, this sounds awesome. And I joined it. And I personally didn't really expect how much first year was going to be, how much work it was going to be. And having an additional design team with like no previous technical experience was like definitely super hard and something that was just hard to adjust to. But I did meet like very amazing people in first year because I joined my design team. So some of those people actually were able to help me become better at like those skills that I didn't know about. So like technical skills like within my design teams like CAD and like we had to use this electrical system called Eagle, actually. Yeah, and that was something I didn't know about. And those people really helped me and mentored me into learning that. So I think joining a first year, like as a first year student, if you are considering joining a design team, just know that it will be a little bit of work, but you will learn a lot, and there will be people that help you. But it can be a bit at times. Um, it can be like you're thinking about that and you're thinking about your schoolwork. But with the position that I have now, I think the reason why I feel confident in this position is because of that design team, because I've had that opportunity to work with other people, and I think I'm kind of very confident and very happy to be in this role, just because I just know how to deal with people that don't necessarily agree with me, and just like lead people and be like plan events for my faculty. And I'm like super happy to be on it. And it's like the only thing I'm focusing on. Something that I found I was doing in first and second year was just like taking on too much. Like I was just constantly trying to try new things and try different design teams and do all these like fun things that, seemed like they would be interesting. And I just felt like I was like overwhelmed with school, overwhelmed with design teams, didn't really have a balance as to like school and life. And so I think this year my focus is just going to be being super good at being the co-pres and just having a great year and a great like just great events for my faculty. So that also comes in hand. Like you just need to kind of think about, oh, so what actually interests me, and not to just take things just because I want to experience. Because at one point you're just going to be like, why am I putting all my time into these different aspects of different aspects that are super interesting, like they're great, but it's just like it's your time, and if you're not enjoying it, then you're not enjoying it. So that's kind of how I think about it, but it's been a super great experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also, congratulations on being elected co-pres. And so also we kind of talked a lot about like meeting people and like how we like met in like our classes. And so just Rachel, I was wondering like how have you like met people in classes and just like what your experiences are with like group projects or like labs and tutorials or study groups.
Yeah, so throughout my first year and less of my second year, obviously, because everything was online. But one thing that I've always found is just every person that I've met so far basically has always been so nice and so kind and so easy to talk to. And it really is, it kind of goes back to one of those things where if you just reach out and you start a conversation, almost guaranteed it will go somewhere and you'll end up talking to this person. And especially with things like Rachel was saying with the standard timetable and like tutorials and labs, you'll start consistently seeing those people again and again. And so that's a pretty easy way to just kind of build those friendships. And then obviously talking about clubs and design teams, those are also great ways to meet people. And just kind of setting yourself up to, see people and start to build those connections is a really great idea. And yeah, for things like classes, I mean, engineering classes are hard, and so they're very confusing. So oftentimes, if you go in, there's been countless times where I've been in my classes and I've tapped the person next to me and been like, I don't know what's going on. And they'll be like, me neither. And there you go, instant bonding point. You both can be lost. So it's one of those things where also I feel like in first year, especially, it can feel a little overwhelming sometimes coming in after high school. And so just kind of like we said before, acknowledging that everybody is in exactly the same boat. And even when you think maybe, oh, I'm the dumbest person in the room, you're absolutely not. And so just talking to the person next to you, I think also can help kind of bring perspective back into the situation, and it can really help with stress as well and kind of connecting with others around you. So yeah, for my own classes in first year, it was one of those things where I would literally just sit down beside people. I'd ask them questions, maybe ask like, oh, do you understand this question? Just easy things like that, just get the ball rolling and then you see them again, you see them again. And it's a really great way to kind of build those friendships. And then also, yeah, with clubs and things, like you see them every week. So there's definitely lots of opportunities if you want to meet people. There's so many opportunities for you to kind of go out there and meet people. And I think even myself personally, one of the things that has changed so much is my ability to just talk to strangers. First year really teaches you that it's really not that scary. And so honestly, 2 years later, like I can go anywhere and just say hello to somebody now because it just feels so natural and you get so used to it. And so even though it might seem scary at first, yeah, you really are all in the same boat. And I'm sure, if you're in class or in a lab or whatever, just reach out to that person, ask a question, ask them if they understand what's going on, ask them how they're doing, and guaranteed they'll answer. And now you have a person also you can go to. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. And also, Rachel, you mentioned before about like living in residence. And so I was just curious, like, what was your experience like meeting people through residence? Was it like easy to meet people on your floor?
Yeah. So as I said, I'm from Vancouver, so I just living here. I moving out was probably not like a very good option for me because I was just kind of like, oh, I'm like 30 minutes away from campus. I can just drive. And most of the people that went to my high school ended up doing that because they were just like right there. They end up living at home. And so when I was actually discussing moving out and coming to first year residence, that was like a big thing. I was like, I don't know if I should do it. But I also like kind of want to experience living on my own. And I really have to say, like, it was probably like the best option for me. Like the number of connections I was able to make just because my list was just like a lot higher if I a lot higher than if I didn't. Because it's not even about like meeting people about in classes, which people who live off campus already do. But living on residence, it's like you get to study together. You really just get to study for midterms together. Like that's a huge thing. And as Rachel said, it's like you bond over not knowing how to do things. And I think that was something I was like not used to at all. Like I came from this like small high school that was like everyone thought the same way, everyone dressed the same way, and then I come to this big environment when it's like everyone is so different. Like everyone is just like themselves, and everyone's just having so much fun. And I just think like whoever, not even about residents, but if you just come to like a university like UBC, it's like there's a place for you, and like no matter what, like everyone is just so different, and you will definitely meet someone that just thinks like you and just likes to be around you. So I think my experience with living on residence, I'm very happy I did it. Like I would definitely do it if I were to go back to being 17. I would definitely do it. It's a super different way of living because it's like you're not um, like living with your parents anymore. You're not living with your siblings. It's also there's that independency and learning to do like most things on your own. It can be super difficult at times. Like there was times when I felt super sad because I was like I didn't have like my support system of being at home and my mom and just everything in general. But I think UBC in general just does a great job to make sure students, no matter if they're on campus or off campus, to just like feel involved. Like there's a bunch of events for first year engineering students specifically. Like it's just like they plan so many things, not even just for people on residence, but so many things for people off campus too. So yeah.
Yeah. And so kind of just building off what Raeiti said and also just like responding to the question, talking kind of about like residents, like there are still so many opportunities for people who don't live in first year residence. And so even with things like Jumpstart, there is like a stream for like something called like collegia. So like a place where people who are all like commuting are able to meet, and you can still meet so many people through that. And you aren't just going to be meeting friends like through residence. Hopefully like throughout this conversation you'll see like there's so many different ways to meet people through like clubs you're in or just like your lectures. Like residence isn't the only way that you're going to be making friends, and there's still so many opportunities to like get to know other commuters, so you can like coordinate maybe like car like shares or like stuff like that. So I don't think you have anything to worry about in that regard. And so now, kind of just before we wrap up, unless anyone has any other questions, I always like to ask what piece of advice you would have given yourself if you were in our incoming students' shoes. And so, Rachel and Raiti, if you think all the way back to grade 12, what advice would you have given yourself before coming into UBC?
I guess I can answer this one first. I think for me, I would definitely say make make the most of my time and stress a little less. And I know it's always easy to say stress, like don't be as stressed. It's so easy to say, but obviously it's a stressful time. But I think looking at first year, it is one of those things where you're only going to be in first year once, and it's kind of a very magical and special time where you are meeting all these people. It's a completely different environment to high school. You kind of feel like an adult maybe for the first time in your life, at least I did. And so it was just one of those things where I think looking back, I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I think I was stressed definitely, about getting into my second year program, as most people are, and things like that, and my grades and, all the stuff that kind of comes with university. But what I've learned, and actually kind of what I talked about in the last panel as well, was there's so many paths in university and kind of in your life in general. And so how you perform in first year, it's important, but also there's so many other things that are equally as important. And that's things like having a balanced lifestyle, making time for yourself, like, meeting people, going out, having fun, doing things that make you happy. And so I think looking back at first year, I would have told myself like, hey, especially with COVID too, but I would have been like, hey, really make the most of this. You're only going to be here once. Um, and then after that, I guess you keep growing in the years, it keeps getting more fun, but there is something special about kind of that first year. Um, and so, while it isn't, try hard and, try and do good in your classes and aim for your goals or whatever you're going for, but also definitely try to make time for yourself, because in the end, also, I think it's very important, and will actually help you kind of achieve what you need to, just sometimes by making those, taking that time to just make yourself happy. So yeah, that'd be my advice.
Yeah, I think what I would probably, if I were to go back to first year, I'd probably, the advice I would give myself would be to just not be super influenced by the people around me, to just like be myself and, just be okay with that. And I just think that was a super hard thing for me to do. I was just constantly like, should I be saying this or should I not be saying that? And also, I think within engineering, I personally felt like super stupid. Like a lot of times, I would just always be like, how does everyone understand this? And I don't. And I think the advice I would give myself for that is like, in first year, you're going to meet so many like brilliant people, right? Like it's going to be like everyone is super smart. Everyone is also at the same level as you. And I'm pretty sure everyone in my like when you come from a high school where you're probably one of the top students, and then you come to a university where everyone is kind of that top student, it's really hard to just not be super hard on yourself and be like, oh, like why am I not understanding this? It's just kind of like there's always going to be people smarter than you, and that's fine. Like, at one point you just gotta accept it and be like, yeah, like this is who I am, and like this is how much I'm capable of, and I'm gonna try my best to do more. But like just like not being super hard on yourself. I felt like I was always like trying to be like always like putting myself down for not getting the best grades. Um, and honestly, like things work out. Like you're gonna be fine. At the end of the day, like first year's just gonna be over, and then you're off to second year, and then by the time like it's like you're halfway through your degree, which is like us three right now, and then in 2 years we're gonna be done. Like it just goes by super fast. So just like make sure you enjoy like the little times, the little moments. Don't like Rachel said, like don't stress so much. It's just going to be like it's all going to work out. You're going to get in your second year program and it's going to be fine. So my advice would just to be like myself and have make the most out of it. Like try new things, but also like don't don't push myself to do so much where I'm just like exhausted all the time.
I think that's really good advice that you guys both gave. And so I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining us, and especially to Raeiti and Rachel for sharing their experience and their insight into ways to connect with others. And so we just hope that this session was able to give you some ideas on how you can like get more involved during your first year and just make some really great friendships. And so this is also our last online session for the year, but the first year engagement program has more activities coming up for the remainder of the summer. And so just make sure you engage with the group and so you can make more friends before you get to campus. And I hope everyone has a great night.